There was a lot of pieces missing in this movie. I don't think this movie did a very good job of.
I don't think this movie did a very good job either.
My final rating for this movie.
Hello, fellow cave dwellers, and welcome back to Beyond the Cave. We are your hosts, Olivia.
And my name is Sydney
Screemy. I knew you were going to take the joke. I made the joke already, and he tried to take it.
I'm Sydney Sweetie's devil fetus baby. That's the joke.
Well, you're dead. So get behind the couch.
Okay.
Okay. This one's just going to be me today, guys.
We just saw Immaculate.
We just watched Immaculate.
Yep.
And it was a movie. Our first horror movie.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a lot to say about this one.
Cool. Good.
But I think we're going to start this one off with Liv's a bit of history.
If you don't like to learn stuff, skip 10 minutes forward.
So we're going to first start things off with talking about a bit of history of horror and also the horror religion genre, subgenre. And then we're going to get into some of our thoughts, what we thought about this movie. We're going to look at some reviews, and we'll finish off with our personal final ratings out of 10.
And of course, we're going to be giving our thoughts, opinions, and thoughts and opinions the entire time, even while I'm giving the history lesson of sorts.
Absolutely.
We also want to preface this episode by saying, again, we are going to talk about the religious horror subgenre. So we will be talking about religion. And Patrick and I don't practice any specific religion. So if we say something that offends you, we apologize in advance. And we do respect the freedom of religion and anything you believe. And we hope you do the same for us. So here we go.
Cool.
What did you think of it? Before we get into the history of the genre.
Oh, I see.
Let's see like a quick
little
quick
30-second thought.
Quick whip.
I didn't really like this movie.
Oh my gosh, get out of here.
We
like every movie.
am
Stop.
Not a huge fan of horror. The horror movies that I tend to like are the ones that like genuinely scare me.
Right.
Or the
you
ones
never wanna
that
watch
are
those.
Exactly. So I'm torn on those movies. And then my other issue is that if it isn't scary, then I tend to find it boring unless it's going for a more disturbing route. And this movie just did not check any of those boxes. I found it to be very everything that happened was kind of expected. It was just not interesting to me. It started as though it was going more of like a ghostly, spooky route.
Right.
It did take a twist that I guess I wasn't expecting, to be fair. I didn't find that twist to be super compelling. And I only really thought that the very last beats of the movie were like anything great.
It was quick. It was a short movie.
And sometimes I like a short movie, but this just didn't feel like it ended up not feeling full to me.
Yeah, it could have had more substance, I think.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say that was like exceptional about this movie was the last scene. Like that was amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Of just her screaming.
It gave me cramps. It gave me uteral cramps. Like I had the blanket up and I was like, like making those noises like 5 minutes like while we set up. I was just like,
Yeah, you were just uncomfortable.
Patrick was like, "Liv?"
Which I guess can't relate to quite as much as a dude. But
yeah, maybe I can convince you that it was good without thinking myself that it was good.
Okay, I would love for you to convince me.
Boogly
But
boogly.
I want to hear, as a less, you're a huge horror fan, so I want to hear a
It's
little
my
bit
favorite
of this
genre.
back.
What is your favorite genre?
Probably like drama or like political
The
stuff.
drama of it
Yeah.
all.
I'm a
You do
sucker
like
for
the politics,
yeah,
the political.
yeah.
Well, I can make this political.
No.
And I'm gonna.
No, not in that way. Let's hear about mystery.
I like
murder mystery.
horror.
What?
It's my favorite genre because I'm just going to answer my own question first because I think it has the most room to be. That's the whole sentence.
That's a good answer. Thank you for answering my question like that. That was good.
You're welcome. I asked the question, but you're welcome.
Well, that was what I was kind of playing off of.
Yeah, I think it has so much room to be spectacle because it can go in, honestly, like any direction. It can be subtle, suggestive, explicit, gory, demonic,
Creepy.
creepy.
Corny.
It can be so corny. Those ones are so good. I love corny movies.
That's how this movie was starting for me. I was like, oh, is this going to be like so bad it's good?
Ooh, I didn't think it started corny.
Okay.
I thought it started... I want to say, you really liked the end. My favorite part of it was the spectacle of it all. I really liked the setting. I thought it was really pretty.
Oh.
Like the Roman little convent that they were at.
Oh,
I was like, oh, pretty. We don't have those.
I thought it was so boring. It was so desaturated. And
It
for a
was.
reason, I get why they did it, but it just made the very boring.
Yeah, it's not memorable.
No.
Anyway.
But yeah, let's get into it.
So the oldest stories in the history of ever were ones that scholars say were stories to help people come to terms with death.
Oh.
So what's noted, this is quite Western, but the Epic of Gilgamesh. I'm not familiar with that, but I wanted to include it.
Okay.
To say that horror has had, because horror deals with death so much. I feel like we're going to say horror so many times.
Sure.
Just feel like I'm saying the word horror over and over. So Gothic kind of came first, and I wanted to start the history lesson with a question. What comes to your head when you think Gothic? So not horror, not the movement. Actually, whatever you want. What do you think of?
I think of buildings.
You think of buildings.
Gothic buildings in Europe. Gothic churches specifically.
The cathedral.
Yeah.
What colors do you think of?
Honestly, like brown, like a light beige stone brown. But I know I should think black.
You don't have to think anything.
Well,
I'm just asking.
that's my answer.
Yeah. What animals do you think of?
Tiger.
Wow.
I
wasn't
know.
expecting
Panther.
tiger. Okay.
That's what I saw in my head.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I always think of crow, but that's because...
That makes so much more sense.
That's
Dude, my
because
answers are awful.
No, this is fun. Last one. What decor do you think of?
Okay, my brain just went to like a white tablecloth with like little white, like loopy trim around the edges.
Okay.
And like some silver teapots.
Okay, Grandma.
Listen, you're asking me, and it's just like a, what do you think? Here you go kind of thing.
This is great. This is like a Schrodinger's test or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Okay, so the Gothic genre was primarily introduced during the Romantic era, my favorite era, which is late 18th, early 19th century.
Can I just stop you right there?
You sure can.
I'm more of a fan of the Mesopotamic era, personally.
Not a winner today.
Sorry, that was a joke.
Writers were pulling inspiration from the French Revolution, Mr. History. I don't know a lot about the French Revolution, so...
Wasn't good for some people.
No, I heard the necks. The necks weren't...
If you had a neck, you better watch out.
And if you... Yeah, that's funny. We should make a horror movie about that. Like a funny one. So it demonstrated anxieties about what was happening to the world and the shift of scientific discovery. So it was going from everyone was very religious and didn't question that to more science. Dun, dun, dun. Some elements from European Gothic, which we still see in horror movies today. The color black, big tapestries. So think, I love tapestries.
Too.
I'm a tapestry girl.
Totally.
Still am. Castles, cathedrals, like churchy architecture. Lots of use of being alone and being isolated. So the middle of the woods, gloomy weather, big mountains. It's almost as if the setting acted as a character itself, which is cool. In isolation, imposing elements, dramatic emotion. So very overdramatic fear and like love and loathing and sadness, just very over the top drama, individuality, but more so in the future, female tragedy and female victims, and ghosts. Supernatural elements, but very like, oh, there's a floating little ghost in the corner.
Oh, really?
Like very explicit.
Oh, okay.
Ghost. I can see the ghost.
Gotcha.
It's not just like a noise you
literal,
hear.
very
yeah,
literal.
Very literal.
Gotcha.
My favorite stories from this time are The Monk, which I still think you should read.
Okay.
Frankenstein.
Classic.
Yep. And Dracula.
Nice.
And Castle of Otranto. I've never read that one, but people say it's the first of the Gothic.
Ooh.
Shift through time. We're shifting through time. Things go in and out of popularity. Gothic's in Europe. It kind of comes out. It goes away. And we move into the American Gothic genre. So this is the next wave of it. It comes around with Industrial Revolution anxiety, shift in family dynamics. Women are working now. That stresses people out. There's war, brutal American and Canadian history. People are dealing with that brutality, tearing down the concept of the American dream. These are all really big anxieties that push the American Gothic into popularity. So some notable authors from this time are Edgar Allan Poe,
Ooh.
Toni Morrison, and William Faulkner. I think that's how you say it. I've read some of him. It scares me, but in a way that isn't expected. Anyway, we won't get into it. So obviously it's more of an American setting in these. It explores darker elements of nations' culture and history, such as slavery, genocide, transcendentalism, and the destruction of wilderness, because they're tearing down the wilderness to bring buildings. You got to get the steel mills. I don't know why I made a violin thing. You got to get the steel mills in there.
I saw you building shoveling coal.
Yep.
You're shoveling coal for a furnace.
Again, it tears down the American dream. So I think of the Purge movies when I consider that.
Oh, wow. That's a great way to relay that.
So with this, I'm going to try to bring in ones we know of. And you love the Purge movies.
I love the concept. I don't love the movies, unfortunately, because they're just not that
that's
good.
Fair.
But
the concept is cool. So that's kind of tearing down the idea of like classism and the American dream of it all. One main difference from European is that it plays with time. So the past comes back to disrupt the present, if that makes sense. So decisions of like slavery and war and all that come and affect what's going on in the stories in the present. Scary characters may be paranormal or insane, which we saw a bit in this movie. Are they mentally ill, or is it actually the supernatural going on? I love that play. It's often pretty cliche, but I think it's fun. It's fun to play with. Is the supernatural actually there, or is it just what we want to see?
Right.
I think
there was a bit of that.
There was a little bit of that. And
it didn't.
I was excited that it was going to play with it, but then it got really literal and I was upset.
I didn't like how they handled.
Yes.
Like, do you mean specifically like mental illness?
Not really. I think I really wanted them to hone into like, was it an immaculate conception or was it scientific?
Yeah.
You know, she had that dream and I was like, did that really happen? Like typing but it obviously really happened. And I wish they would have kept that a secret. I wish they would have left it up as a suggestion and the audience's interpretation.
Man, I'm kind of dumb because I thought that was a dream, but I see that was.
I don't think it was a dream.
I don't think so either.
No. And
well,
when I
part
say,
of it,
yeah, I think so.
Do you think that she was actually in the booth and they like drugged her or something
and pulled her back? Yeah, I'm not sure because he kept getting further
and
away.
I feel like that could kind of be like drugs, like messing you up and you're like getting woozy.
Maybe they tipped her wine or something that she was drinking.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So, and yeah, when I say mentally ill, I guess I also mean more of is it all mental? So maybe not a mental illness per se, because that can be very problematic. But I was also excited in this movie for them to play into the old age of the women.
Okay, that's actually what I thought you ment when you said like the mental illness.
Oh yeah,
stuff.
that includes it though. I mean, when people are going through like dementia or they have a brain injury where they forget and they're creating
I just
a reality.
Didn't think that like went anywhere. Like the old lady cuts her hair and then she gives her this like kind of cross thing that like
looked like a person
out of hair. Person, I don't know what that was, and it didn't. It was just like, I support you.
Yeah, she was like, I've been there because her feetsies had the cross on them. Yeah. She's like, I've been there too, sister.
Which also, literally. I didn't understand that really. That to me, that scene just felt like it was there for like shock value.
Yeah, it felt like, the old lady's back.
Yeah.
Oh. But so I wish they played more into that. A couple more things. American Gothic. It's very family focused. So this brings in the family curse. So I think of The Fall of the House of Usher.
Oh, okay.
Where the Roderick and his sister, I always forget his sister's name, had a mom who was possessed, but all the neighbors kind of thought, she's ill.
She like killed someone.
She has the female illness of hysteria.
Sure, yeah.
But then it slinks down, and if you watch the show on Netflix, they really made it a family curse. Like it became literally a family curse. So that's very interesting. And the whole concept of, can one escape the family curse? So I also think of Insidious with this, with that famous quote, it's not the house that's haunted, it's your son.
Yeah.
So it kind of moves from European was more haunted houses, American was more haunted families.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
does that make sense?
Yeah, I think Insidious is a good example with that too. That
and
probably a lot of people have seen.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of popular ones. There's also, is humanity inherently evil, which has religious subtext with it all. And that is the main history of European to American. And this movie's interesting because it's an American girl who moves to Europe.
Yeah.
So, but this was very American, I thought.
Okay. Yeah,
in like the context of those
what
two
you're
things.
saying. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
I just don't even see how this movie was kind of horror at all, really.
So one thing I thought was very scary is, so I also read a little bit of a book, and I really want to share this quote from it because this idea helped me see this movie as more scary than what it was.
Okay.
So it's a book called, it's about horror. It's pretty basic title. Horror and the Horror Film by Bruce F.
Yes.
Cowett.
That must be about horror.
And the horror film. Yeah, I know, right? It's just wasn't hard to find. So on page 5, it says, a film with a particular monster or threat usually is built around a particular fear or set of fears, including the outright fear of the monster and what it can do, as well as of what it represents, evokes, symbolizes, or implies. So in this instance, the author uses the vampire picture is built around the vampire, and the vampire comprises all the fears and horrors for which it provides a form and embodiment. The horror of drinking blood, the fear of losing blood, the fear of contamination or infection, the fear of being bitten, the horror of wanting to drink blood, the fear of death, and the horror of undeath. You know, the vampire itself represents a lot. So in this movie, I was wondering with that quote, what is the threat and what is the representation of the threat?
Right.
What anxieties does it deal with?
That's a really good way to frame it, because then I'm like, okay, I see what you mean.
Yes, because I understand, like, you know, you watch, like, what's the movie that scared you a lot? Sinister? Conjuring?
Oh, no, it was Lights Out.
Oh my God, where did I get those? Those were mine.
Lights Out is basically just a premise that...
scared of the dark.
Yeah.
What can happen in the dark.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying. But it's
got me.
It's like right in your face. It's like, this is obviously a movie about being scared of the dark.
Yeah.
I think this movie was really obvious, but it was also subtle at the same time. It depends on what you were focusing on.
To me, this was like a captor movie. Like that was kind of like the fear that I felt. Well, I don't even know, because like that's not really, I guess, what I felt big time, but in some ways to me it felt like that's what it was trying to be, where it's like this place that you can't leave, because that is literally how the movie starts.
Yes, it is.
Is the girl trying to escape,
which was a great setup. I really liked the opening scene of her trying to escape.
That grabbed me. Yeah.
And the people, you know, the ominous figures coming with the red faces.
Yeah, I thought that
I still know who they are. Are they the men?
I got something to say about that. Do you want? I'll just say it now. Yeah, I really hate premises where there is this like group above everyone controlling the strings that you just don't really find out much about them.
I was excited to find out about.
Yeah, there's a really popular anime, Jujutsu Kaisen, kind of has a trope of that where there's these like the like top people of the society, and they're like kind of controlling things, but you never see them do anything, and it's supposed to be the mystery, but like you don't actually see them as a villain or really as a like entity within the story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just sometimes bothers me because I feel like the
it feels
father,
like a cop out
a little bit. Like I feel like the father was the villain.
Yeah, like the team of those guys.
Yeah, and he kind of represented that group, but they were there to make it feel mysterious. But were they really?
So they,
it? Like,
in this sense, they could represent as the unknown.
Yeah, totally.
And that's the unknown is very scary.
And I think to start things out, it did a good job with that.
Yes, I did want an explanation too.
But that's it. There's just like they're there to create that unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it just felt like a bit of that shock, like, whoa, that almost like intrigue, fear, just to have intrigue and fear.
Yeah.
But it didn't really progress the story.
Yeah. And
you could have removed them. And I don't really think it would have
because
been
that person
any
laying
different.
on the floor had it over her face and it was a her.
Yeah.
So
who is she?
It was interesting she was talking to the floor. Because what is to the floor? Devil.
Oh, damn. I miss all these things.
And she's wearing
I'm glad we have you.
red, devil.
Yeah.
I thought it, and like the way her body was, it looked like it was in the shape of a cross laying on the floor.
Kind of like possessed.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting. Like maybe she was talking to the people they buried and she was asking for repent. I liked that it was a different language because that also added a layer of unknown.
That was a nice
Sydney Cecilia, she was so isolated.
I think the language barrier was great.
The language barrier, they drove her in the middle of the countryside, and as an audience, I'm like, what are they saying?
Yeah. Yeah, so we related to her. We didn't know what was
going on.
They
sang Ave Maria, and I was like, I know this song. And then they sang other songs.
You're like, is this from Harry Potter?
Yeah, and then there was one that just sounded like I don't know, one where they, and Dahu Doris from The Grinch. Anyway.
Okay.
I was like, oh yeah, I know this one. It's a Christmas song. Anywho, speaking more on the representation, a lot of times horror, I mentioned this in the Godzilla episode, deals with the anxieties of what is going on in the world, maybe what's going on in a culture or a society. So from that and from a representation point of view, what do you think anxieties were being portrayed in this movie?
I don't really know.
I can help you.
Please answer the question.
So a couple minutes ago, you said you thought the man was the bad guy, the priest.
Sure.
Think about that. The priest is the bad guy.
Oh, okay.
Controlling women's bodies.
Okay, sure.
Abortion, healthcare, unwanted very clear unwanted pregnancy.
I totally see that
yes.
side of it. Yeah,
yes.
where they don't even want her to go to a real hospital.
Yeah, and I'm here like, I told you, it was really obvious, but it was also like they hid it behind. It's just very interesting. I still don't think it was done well, but I found it interesting.
I see the themes it was trying to play on.
Yeah. It scared me because I'm terrified of birth and being pregnant. All power to you. I just shuddered every time her belly was on screen. It scares me. That's a personal fear. There was also the loss of family. We don't know a lot about her family. Like she was like, my family was my church. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that handled well from a storytelling perspective?
I mean, in the captive perspective, she was captured.
Totally.
Like they were chasing her basically.
Totally.
Like stalking her.
We just saw the movie Midsummer, which is kind of about it has themes of like cults and it as you've said, it doesn't ever actually say that this is a cult, but it has a lot of cult themes and how people are brought into cults. And that movie does a really good job of bringing the characters into this strange place and making them like slowly become really isolated.
Yeah.
And
it was a slow burn.
I just felt that this movie, I didn't like, I get that they were going to try to make her look isolated, and she did seem isolated, but maybe it was a lack of backstory.
Yeah.
It just felt like a little hollow.
I was like, she goes on the ice and takes off her clothes and freezes herself and then fell in the ice.
Yeah, they're giving these hints and I'm like, okay, like she obviously like is up, like she's like, I would just put my hands on it till I don't feel anything. It's like, okay, you must be upset or something.
She must be sad.
Why?
Yeah.
You know, why? Where are your parents? Why?
I have watched and read so many things about like where do monks go? They're like female nun or male nuns. It's like a covenant.
I don't know what the
monastery.
term is. Oh, nice.
Monastery.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been in that media and she didn't feel like someone who was super religious. It wasn't convincing. It was just occasional Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Agreed.
And then like I just felt like if you're going to be violent, I saw a flicker of it where she was like, I don't want to be violent. But if you wanted to really like God saved me, you got to be praying while you're killing people. You got to be like really given the drama of like, man, I don't want to do this.
It seemed like a pretty like it was like such a quick flip of I'm this like helpless, like really just like I'm devout. And that was like, I'm just saying like one note of like, that is her character. Like the father had some backstory where he wasn't super religious to start and he fell into it. I thought that made him kind of a compelling character because he chose to go into that, which I think if you're making the choice, it makes your decision a little bit more impactful than you were just in it always.
I think she made the choice though. Like she was like, God chose to save me.
I agree. But I think
it wasn't as deep.
Yeah, it was just like I was 12 and I didn't die.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I just don't think that is like as compelling.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but I'm just saying that
it can still happen and it's fine if it happens. It's just in a movie setting.
But if you've been the same way since you were 12, to me that shows like being a pretty one-note character.
We also don't know how old she was in the movie.
We don't know how old she was.
No, so we don't know how many years it's been since she was 12, which is hard.
Okay, because in my head I'm like, Sydney Sweeney's probably like 28 or 25 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how old she is, but I'm assuming she's like 25. Maybe she's younger.
Know. I liked her better in her rom-com.
I liked her better in a lot of things. Man, and she is good in this
movie. I watched it on the plane. Not The Idea of You. We just watched that.
A rom-com with Sydney
Sweeney? It was Anyone But You. Anyone But You. Yeah, we weren't sitting together on that plane ride, so I was talking to you. She was just really good.
Okay, yeah. I think like, I guess what I'm trying to just say is that I feel like she was a pretty flat character and it didn't really give her a lot of room to like do much as the great actress that she is.
I think, she was great in the screaming moments.
That to me, I was like, oh, right. Yeah, she's like, really good.
Whoa. I hated it.
I just think like...
I just licked the mic.
That's okay. Just giving him a little kiss. I just think it kind of got like flat and then actually I'm murdering people and like...
Yeah.
And not just to murder the girl that's the like nun that's looking over her, but she just goes around and just chokes out like the main priest.
I love that she murdered that girl with the cross and then choked him with the rosary.
It was cool.
I was like, and then she tried to burn that guy like so.
And then she caught him with the stake at the end.
Oh yeah, very symbolic.
Great ideas, but bad in execution.
Yeah, bad in execution. I really wanted her character to be deeper because she couldn't even kill a chicken. And then suddenly...
Exactly.
It's like...
And I guess you're saying like, oh, well, she later did kill the chicken. So she's throwing like...
She's growing,
but it just felt like there wasn't enough time to see that.
It was too choppy.
It was choppy.
It was choppy. I really liked her friend.
Me too.
And then she got her freaking tongue cut out.
I also thought that was kind of quick and bad because she's just like, you know what? I'm just going to yell at everybody. And it's like...
Yeah. But we also don't know what she said. Because it was in a different language.
I don't think she had anything good to say.
No, I don't think it was good. But they take that stuff very seriously. I mean, hopefully in real life, she just would have been kicked out.
Yes, they do take stuff seriously. And I think she should have known that and been like someone, that Cecilia girl was murdered.
Yeah. No. Cecilia.
Oh, sorry. Isabella.
Isabel. Yeah.
Was definitely murdered.
Oh, yeah. She was compelling. I wanted her character to go farther too.
Yeah. Okay. Dude, I actually didn't like her character at all because she was
No.
just like, I hate you. And you're
She
like,
was just staring.
why do you? And she's walking around through the sheets getting dried and she disappears.
I get why she hated her though, because it was supposed to be her.
I get it. But they're just it was like,
But then
I'm
does
being
she-
mean and staring at you and now I'm going to drown you.
Yeah. Was she? No, maybe it was, what was her name?
Gwen?
Her friend.
Gwen, I think.
Oh, Gwen?
Was it? I thought it was Gwen, Sister Gwen.
I don't remember. Anyway, there was one
We're
character.
calling her Gwen.
There was one character who warned her in the beginning, like in a way that was like, you can still, I think it was Isabel. She said, you can still leave.
She did.
It was a warning. And I was
Whoa.
like, ooh, cool.
She did give
And
her a warning.
it gave it in a way that was like, I don't want you to be here.
Yeah.
Because like girly drama stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's what it gave. But I wrote it down because I was like, this is a warning for sure.
Yeah. Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
Ooh,
I did write this down at the very start of the movie because I thought, maybe this will be some foreshadowing. And it was good. It was. She says when she's at custom, they're like, why would you go into this so soon and so early? Like, why would you do this?
Yeah.
And she said, I don't think of it as a decision.
Yes.
And it's like, was she like coerced to come here?
Was she
Kind
forced
of.
to?
But
Yeah.
I think it might have been cooler if they had kind of explored, like,
Yep.
how did they get her to come here?
Mm-hmm. Was it just like, hey, we bought you a ticket. Come on over.
Yeah. Or, man, it just...
There was something missing.
There was a lot of pieces missing in this movie.
Yeah. There was a lot of like, the father said also Isabel's losing her fight to mental illness. And I was like, lame.
Agreed.
Lame.
Well, mental illness stuff can be done well.
I feel like I can't even finish a thought because I'm like, oh, I want to talk about this. And then I'm like, that went nowhere. And then my thoughts are going nowhere.
Whoa.
There's just no closure on any of these ideas because nothing went anywhere. She did kind of go like, I thought it was cool how she was going on a killing rampage, but it kind of felt like Daenerys in Game of Thrones. It was like, now she's killing everyone.
I guess she's going to kill people now.
And it's
Yeah.
I think we missed something.
I think if
this doesn't feel like an anti-hero at all.
No.
I was like, ugh.
But not a hero.
Also, show us the baby. What came out of you?
You know what? I think it was the right decision because
True.
I think it's better left to your imagination of like, maybe it was like a little Voldemort fetus, like in Harry Potter.
That's exactly what I was
7.5.
picturing. Yeah.
And it was making like baby crying noises.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. In my head, I was like, yo, is it going to be like a demon and it's going to kill her? And then they're going to set up for the second movie and it's like Demon Christ Baby.
Demon Baby.
It would have been cool.
Demon Christ Baby 2.
I really think that was like the only...
Yeah,
I've said it again. The only great thing about this movie was the final scene.
There's another quote from the book that I was reading a little bit of. Not every resonant horror movie has to be shocking. Many of the best scenes are more subtle. Yeah. And I mean, I don't think that scene was subtle, but it definitely left things, the art of suggestion, the art of what was implied there. What did it look like? It gave us the sound, but it didn't give us the visual.
When she went to grab the rock, you could see it in the background.
Yeah.
And it was out of focus and kind
it
of
had
just
like a
red.
general shape of child, but I mean, it had to come out of her, so it couldn't have been like the size of an elephant.
Yeah. I'm fine that they left that out. I think so much of that scene was just her.
Yeah. Also the science of it all. Like the guy was like, hey, this iron spike was in Jesus's hand and it has blood and blood and bone on it.
Blood and cheese. That's a House of the Dragon reference. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Like, is that implied that they put that in her to make the child?
No, I think they showed all those little fetuses of them using the genetic information to make fetuses and trying over and over and over.
Oh my God.
And
what
then,
does that remind you of?
It's
going to be in one of the reviews later. It'll come back up.
Okay, cool.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
I did make a couple jokes during it because I always do.
You did. This
is the second time we've seen Sydney Sweeney throw up in a bathtub. If you've seen Euphoria,
Dude, you guys caught me with that again. I laughed when she said it too.
Yep. And when that woman was like, "Don't worry, hun, your job is just baby," I was like, "Okay, It is the horror movie version of Ken.
I do beach.
Religious Ken.
I do
My job
baby.
is just baby. It's just baby. Also, Sydney Sweeney like paid for this whole movie.
Oh,
to be
really?
made. Yeah.
Oh.
So it was, I don't know if it was like a lower budget, but it wasn't like a really, like they didn't really want to make it that badly. But she was like, yeah, no, I think like it was like a lower filmmaker kind of, like not your like high uppities. So I think that part's cool. That she was like, no, I think horror movies need to be made. I think lower budget movies need to be made. Not, yeah. Anyway, so she paid for it.
That is not going to boost my rating on this one.
Oh.
I'm just going to say. However, that makes me like this movie more.
Yeah.
It gains my respect.
Mm-hmm.
And
cool.
Yeah. Actually, that's a really good fact to know,
yeah,
though.
It's cool. I spit facts.
I think when things just feel a little less corporate.
Yeah.
It feels like, they probably had a little more creative control in this. And
yes. Which
less
makes it cool.
over the top budget. I guess you can see that because I feel like Sydney Sweeney was the only really major actor. It seemed like everyone else were like Italian.
Yes.
And there's probably like some really famous actor in this that I don't know.
Definitely.
But it was like a pretty Italian cast. And
Yep.
I'm wondering how much of that were like
they were
less
probably
Western actors.
Yeah, the
maybe.
budget was probably
I don't know.
Italy is still the West.
Yeah.
Italy's the West.
I know.
But I know what you mean.
Do you
Not
know
American.
do you know what I mean? Not Italian actors living in America, but maybe they were trying to just.
Who knows?
I should probably do research on these things.
It's fine. Nope. I didn't do research on that.
Yeah.
A lot of times in religious horror movies, they would have a Christian solution. So it would almost be like conveying a message. Like in some exorcism movies, it works. They do the exorcism, believe in God, the devil will come out of your body. The possession goes away. So I wrote down the question, is there a Christian solution in this movie? No. Well, maybe. You could make the argument, I guess.
Guy does get stabbed with a stake.
Yeah, he does.
Although I guess that original stake was not originally a Christian solution.
No, I wouldn't argue that this had a Christian solution.
Yeah. Kind of joking, but yeah.
Yeah. There was also, speaking of anxieties, there was a shift. I would say around the time that Friday the 13th was made, and that might have, when was the first one? 80s or 90s?
Sure.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, to the open-ended horror movie. So, Carrie's hand comes back out of the ground, like the threat is not actually dead. It's still around, which leaves you with like, oh no.
That lasting anxiety of the horror hasn't just been wrapped up.
Yeah, it hasn't been wrapped up. But in recent movies, there's almost been a shift back to like a calm ending, like a resolution that gets like a conflict that gets fixed. What do you think about in this movie? I think it was kind of open-ended, but not that the threat was still there, but like she could have bled out.
Yeah, but I guess this place, like, we don't know if she escaped. And if you want to think of like it, I guess that captive theme, we don't really know if she got out. But like you said, also let alone live. We don't know if this place kept on doing its thing.
Yeah. Stop doing your thing.
So I don't know.
I don't know either. I think it's in the middle. Kind of like my opinion of the movie. Middle.
Yeah.
Mid.
I found the first 30 minutes of this movie really boring.
Yep.
And
people in reviews agreed with you on that.
Okay. And especially because they were, the first 30 minutes just felt like the classic horror, like, I don't know, 2000s and on kind of horror movie.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those like early, like late 2000s where, okay, they move into a house and, the first night in the house, there's something a little spooky. And then, or someone has a crazy, scary dream. But, that actually didn't happen yet.
Yeah.
But basically
it did.
Like it was like the possessive spirit just in their dream. And it really felt like, ooh, little jump scare. Like, I don't know, the birds running into the window. That was a bit later, but
the crow. Yeah, what did that mean? She lost a tooth. Was that to say that like the thing inside of her was
like
evil?
And that's where I thought it was going. Okay, it started when we're like, okay, this is like a spooky place, and I don't know. But then the tooth was suggesting to me,
demon baby.
Yeah, and they didn't really lean into that this much. Like,
I was like, why'd she lose a tooth?
I think it would have been really neat if her body was like perhaps rejecting the baby.
Oh yeah.
Or I guess the baby's demonness was taking over. Was this almost like
that's been done?
I know. In a weird way, like the way that science was kind of the actual driving, like spooky force of this movie. Was it a No.
Was it sci-fi?
Was it a sci-fi horror?
A little bit, I would say.
Because it was science fiction. You can't do what they did in this movie.
Who says? I'm just kidding. So, before we jump into Pourquoi? What?
Okay.
What?
Is this movie kind of like Jurassic Park?
That's what I was asking you before. I was like, what does it remind you of? That is not why I'm wearing my Jurassic Park shirt.
Oh my God.
I didn't know.
They find the old genetics.
Yeah. And they're trying to recreate.
Huh. Oh no.
I've never heard you laugh like that.
That's funny.
It is totally like Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Which gives it half a point more for me.
Okay, I respect that.
I'm
You're a
just
big
kidding.
draft. Oh, okay.
I don't know,
Sorry,
actually.
what were you going to say?
I was about to go into a big idea, so I'm glad you said that first.
I needed to get that off
You
my
needed
chest.
to get it off your... That's what I was asking you before, but I was like, it's never been done? Are you sure it's never been done? So I have one more main point before we read some of your notes. Oh my gosh, you have so much notes.
No, but you've got a good one, so go for it.
Well, I kind of had this boiled up, ready to... The stove was on before we started the movie, if you know what I'm saying. Through all of the horror genre, a lot of what makes it scary is that it deals with the notion of the abject. Do you know what that is? Good, I'm about to tell you. Excellent. If you were interested in horror, you might have heard of this before. It was coined by a scholar named Julia Kristeva, who writes about the abject horror. And she says, the abject refers to the human reaction. So vomiting, the horror reaction, kind of like disgust, like, you're like, ugh, kind of like creep, to a threatened breakdown in meaning caused by the loss of the distinction between subject and object, or between self and other. So it is the space between the subject and the object. I'm going to explain it further because that is a mouthful and I had to read that sentence like 100 times. And I was like, okay. So to help explain it, it has ties to Freud's concept in the uncanny. So Freud uses dolls when he wrote about the idea of the uncanny.
Did Freud coin the uncanny? Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people know Freud to just be like, all women love their dads.
Yeah.
All guys love their mom. He did so much more than that, but it gets really swept under the rug.
Well, I think it's because the
that
things
one's the
that
creepiest.
he brought to the things that he brought to like the human like society, like consciously to humans as a whole and in science are so now ingrained in how we conceive ourselves and psychology that it's taken for granted.
Totally.
And I think especially professors that want to seem smart will just be like, he just thought you wanted to bang your mom.
Then no.
And it's like, no, like the unconscious.
Yes. So he also created the uncanny.
I didn't know that.
The uncanny valley.
Cool.
So he has a couple examples, but I pulled dolls for the explanation of the uncanny and the abject. And dolls horror uses that too. So there's horror movies about ventriloquy and Chucky and all that stuff. Anyway, it is the description of feeling like you recognize yourself or recognize the human in the doll because it looks like a human, but you also know that it isn't. And that generates this uncomfortable, uncanny feeling because you know that it's not. It's like when you see someone that looks like someone you know and you're like, it's uncanny. Because you know it's not that person, but it looks so much like that person. It's this weird place in the middle. And that's also the notion of the abject. So you react to the creepy doll with a fear because the difference between you, the subject, and the doll, the other, is not as separated as you want it to be. There is a threatened breakdown of that difference. So this, in horror, when they bring doll, so also like Annabelle, that's another example. That distinction is even less because the doll is alive or has human qualities, which threatens that difference between you and the doll even more. So I also take it as like this loss of control when you find that middle, that gray zone, because we do want to see the world as black and white. We want to see that there's good and we want to see that there's evil. But in this movie, I found that abject place was Cecilia's character of, she is good. She started out as good, but then she started killing people. So is she bad now? Because killing is bad. Self-defense, like there's like all that area. And abject is also the notion of the demon. It's neither dead or alive. Zombie, not dead, not alive. All these things. And it also comes up in the world where we have a fear of the abject in socio-political context where if you're really right-leaning or you're really like left-leaning,
like a fear of the other side.
The fear of the other side.
And some people probably take that as like hatred, but like that hatred often stems
from the fear of the other.
Fear of like what you guys want to do.
Yes. So I find like a lot of times when you see like stories online of, you know, someone who is really right-leaning does something nice, it's almost like the left is really quick to say, well, they're actually not that good. They're doing it for this other reason. And it's this fear of like the person on the other side not wanting to see this middle ground. They want the other to stay the other, and they want the self to stay the self. So the fear comes somewhere in the middle where it's uncanny or abject.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's a thing I really like about horror, is that it plays with the abject feeling.
I don't think this movie did a very good job of
I don't think this movie did a very good job either. Because I don't think my explanation was even that good.
Yeah,
I really don't think it did.
I don't either.
No.
And like you're like, okay, this is.
And I was really thinking. Sorry, I was really thinking about it while watching the movie. Like I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm really excited. I always think about this when I watch horror movies. Is like why am I scared? What am I feeling scared of? For me personally, it's like the loss of control. You know, when a demon comes, you're like, you can't kill the demon because it's not alive or dead. So, like, there
wasn't a lot of.
There just wasn't in this movie.
Like I think the biggest thing was really that they, I guess, somehow impregnated her and kind of had that control over her.
True.
Keeping her there. I don't know if you felt that more, because it might be a little hit closer to home for you, but it doesn't even, I'm not really seeing that really even got you.
So one thing that I see as the abject in this movie, and I think it comes up with a lot of movies around pregnancy, is pregnancy. It is a time in the middle where, you know, you are becoming. Yeah. This may trigger warning. I don't believe that life begins at conception. I don't have that belief. And if you do, that's awesome. We're just going to respect each other. So to me, when you're pregnant, and first developing, it is this time between not existing and beginning to exist. That's weird to me. That it's strange, and it feels like I see pictures of like embryo to fetus and I'm like, oh my God, what is that? Like it looks like an animal, alien.
Yeah, like, and I think we can, like, even when a baby comes out of a woman, I think like we can all agree, whatever your beliefs are, when
it looks weird,
it becomes a baby. Like I look at a newborn baby and I'm like, that's an alien still.
I think newborn babies are ugly. Sorry.
They are. And like a baby that's been brewing for like 4 months is like a seahorse
brewing.
Yeah, man, they're weird. They're weird.
I think 4 months, it might be a little bit more than a seahorse.
Okay,
but
well,
anyway,
yeah, 2 months,
there is
whatever.
a point where it kind of looks like a seahorse.
Yeah, and there's that old like thing where this guy like took a bunch of embryos like from cats and all sorts of species, and so they're all the same, and that's not true.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
But I don't know. Early stage embryos in humans still look kind of seahorsey. I still don't know like what you're getting at, like how this relates to the movie.
No, I'm saying it's like this in between, like the
Right.
abject spot. And she was pregnant in the movie. We also didn't know exactly what she was pregnant with. And that is an unknown, weird.
Okay, you're saying it's like that was a bit of the unknown.
The
of this
symbolism
movie.
of pregnancy can be used to portray that concept.
Yeah, I don't.
And has been in other movies. I don't think it did good.
It just, what was it trying to do, you know?
Yeah. I don't. It felt like I know that this was probably the message that was coming. Women are being used to fulfill men's science, to religion, to like the female body is being used to go further with things. That has happened before in real life. That was an allegory of things that have happened. The female body has been used.
Totally.
Yeah. But
I think it when we find out that it was like, okay, actually it's a science experiment. I said, okay, this is an interesting twist that I didn't really see coming. And I think
I was like,
a church using science to bring back the recoming of Christ is actually a pretty interesting concept.
Yeah. I was like,
and that's how I feel a lot. That's how I feel a lot on like a lot of points in this movie is I think if you just took down the bullet points and did sort of like a almost sequential of how things happen and what this movie is about, it sounds a lot better on paper than how it was delivered.
Yeah. I think they were trying to do a lot. I think they could have peeled back a couple things and focused more. Like I think it's incredibly, dare I say, hypocritical that they were using science to
Totally.
Because religion and science have been at a battle for so long.
Yeah. But I think that is interesting.
That's so interesting, but I wish if they would have focused more on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It just wasn't diving anywhere. No. In a lot of ways, it was I feel like it had a lot of generic religious horror tropes.
Yeah.
Not that I've seen a ton, but it felt very generic at times, as though like, yeah, I would expect this to be happening.
Yeah. What else do your notes say?
Okay. I mean, I've kind of covered on
Read them upside
a lot
down.
of it.
No, I'm kidding.
I don't think the dream sequence was kind of dumb to me.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that probably did happen. Maybe.
Well, something had to have happened for her to become pregnant.
Totally.
Yeah.
I didn't really like how Isabel was portrayed, being like, "Oh, I hate you." I didn't think that played out very well.
It felt very like girl camp drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally immature. Like what?
Yeah.
I was not expecting.
I mean, not that someone who tried to be impregnated with like weird science crap has to be a perfect human.
Sure. I thought that there was a lot of like just things happening conveniently to be scary, like the bird running into the window. There was some earlier.
What was the symbolism of that?
Also, like the painting, like chain snapping.
Oh my God, that was
like.
So I wish I could have been the person who was like, okay, are we ready to do this? Are we ready to do that?
Drops it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just was so convenient, and it was only to say that like sometimes the devil hides as an angel, like
angel of light.
Oh, really? These guys aren't good.
I was waiting for like the angel of light. Like I was like, who's supposed to be the who? When?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah.
How?
Also, the branding scene
made me feel dumb.
Why would you brand a pregnant woman that like has a baby that you really want to survive?
Yeah, there was just no consideration for like pregnant women it has been known that like stress and pregnancy does not lead
Yes.
to like health.
Yes. And also, like, people can die if they're branded. Like, we're not cows. We can't take that shock as well.
And cows shouldn't either.
It's true. It's kind of mean.
Kind of.
It's very mean. I think another thing that I didn't like is like you are expecting her to come to this place that's going to be bad because you know that from the start.
Yeah.
And to me, the intrigue is like, why does this girl want to leave? Who are these hooded figures?
Yeah.
And none of that is really like delivered. Like here's the thing: why did that woman want to leave? Is it because she thought?
Beginning?
Is it because she was pregnant?
That's true.
How would she know until she's finally really pregnant? Did she think they were going to experiment on her?
Right. Did she figure it out? Did it already happen? I thought that was okay.
I liked that it was, hey, this is a bad place. But then I think in showing that this is a bad place, you're expecting bad things to happen.
Right.
So then it's like this first 30 minutes of just, it's traditional spooky. And then there's this twist. So, okay, none of all that, like, is this a possessed place really matters? And then it's just like the rest of it is kind of fumbled. And then you have this really amazing scene at the end.
Yeah, because I'll say, like, I really did like that opening scene because it delivered a mystery.
Yes.
I had a lot of questions, and I like when movies, especially horror, like, make me ask questions because I'm excited to have them answered. And actually, horror it can be a huge thing about it that a lot of your questions don't get answered. So I'm also not expecting all of my questions to get answered because I know there's going to be somebody watching or listening that will think movies don't have to answer all of your questions. Me.
It's true.
However, this movie like tried to answer them, but didn't, I feel like. And that's where it lost me.
Yeah.
I almost like want a movie about the like hooded people. I want to know. I want more. I want to know more of the science. I love that scene in the Da Vinci Code where that guy is explaining the Last Supper picture and why I love moments in movies like that where they just explain everything.
Oh, we needed some lore.
And it happened in Shutter Island where there's like this big monologue of the Hulk explaining to Leonardo DiCaprio why. Have you ever seen Shutter Island?
Yeah,
okay, cool. You know, I love those moments where I'm like, nice. And I know we can't always get that, but God, it would have been cool if he was like, here's how I do it scientifically. And then they pull in that guy from Jurassic Park to explain.
Sure. Yeah. And then like, and here are our plans once we get the baby. This is why we're doing it.
Whoa, I would have loved to have learned what their plans were.
Right? Undercooked, man. Let's get to some letterbox reviews. Let's just get to this. I don't know, man. The more we talk about it, the more I'm like, oh, this wasn't very.
I could tell that you hated it because you didn't look at me with anything in your face once.
Yeah, you thought I was in a bad mood. I just wasn't liking the movie. But I'm glad to like finally watch a movie that I don't like because I've given so many good reviews because it's all movies I'm really excited to see and movies that I tend to.
I kind of fumbled the bag this week because we plan to watch another horror movie that looks a lot better, but it's not out yet. So that'll be coming to you soon. Anyway, one review from Haley who gave it 3.5 stars. Nothing scarier than being pregnant, which again, I have a fear of pregnancy, so I felt that. Silent Dawn, 3.5. Excellent non-fiction film about the dangers of Catholicism. And I thought that was funny.
I like that.
Yeah. Saris. 3 stars. What I go through every time my period is late. I thought that was funny.
That's a good one.
Blue Ghosts, who gave it 5 stars. When you think about it, this is really just a pro-choice nun movie. Compliment.
Wow.
I was like, nice.
That's funny.
Yeah. Cinema Strikes Back said, like Jurassic Park, but with Jesus. Which is why I was so excited to read that to you, and you figured it out.
So funny.
Yeah. And of course, I had to go back to the 1 stars. A lot of the 1 stars were people that just thought it was boring. So a lot of the reviews were pretty boring themselves. But I thought this one was kind of funny. A Space Hog, hilarious handle name. 1 star. Rather give anal birth to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson than watch this garbage again.
That's a great comment, man. Letterboxd goes hard sometimes.
I was like, what? Anyway, I thought that was really funny too. And people who were kind of in the middle mentioned that Sydney Sweeney paid for it and that they really liked the music in it. I thought the music was good. I think any type of like Italian church song is jarring.
Yeah.
Like it feels uncanny.
It does.
It feels like I've heard it before, but I don't know what they're saying. I hear it in my dreams.
Oh.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
And they also, all the effects were practical.
Oh, that's,
so
yeah.
I respect that in a horror movie.
It makes me appreciate and respect Sydney Sweeney more.
Yeah, I'm excited to see her future projects because I think she's growing.
Yes.
Yeah, because sometimes her reads feel a little robotic.
I've got some takes here.
I love your takes.
Okay.
From people online.
So first thing, this is kind of generic, but I think it's a good way to.
I love that you go to Reddit
into this. Yeah, I love Reddit comments.
Patrick's like, I'm on Reddit.
I wish the first 2/3 of this movie were more like the end of the movie.
That third trimester, baby. Yep. It hit.
But here's one I really agree with. Best shot of the movie is her in blue and white with everyone else in black.
Oh, that was breathtaking.
It felt like a scene from a much better movie.
Oh, I actually can't believe that image of that scene isn't circulating on the internet. Or, okay, maybe it did. I'm not on every corner of the internet, but that was breathtaking.
That was such a powerful scene.
Yeah, she had like flowers with.
That was cool.
She looked like, what's the word for, not religious, but
like godly.
Godly.
Like ethereal.
I think
God. That's a cool theme to see the character come into a new space and then like ascend. That's always really cool.
What if she took on the what's the word?
The monarchy.
Personality. I forgot the word personality. What if she took on the whole like I'm better than everyone here aspect? I feel like she just learned.
There could have been some cool things that
she learned what was happening so fast. I would have loved like literally a half an hour more of some dynamics of her being like, I am an immaculate conception person.
Yeah. What if she like took over that place?
Ooh. And she was like, Father, you can't say shit.
I am like, I'm a messenger.
I'm the next
God.
Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
So
a lot of cooler ways.
I just feel like this nun had never read the Bible. Like, I just feel like you could have leaned so much more into like nunness. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
I love that the word nun and nun, like N-U-N and N-O-N-E. Go nun, give us none.
I've got another one for you.
Love it.
And it's actually someone.
This is just for me, everyone, so you're going to have to close your eyes.
It's really for you. Sydney Sweeney was ironically kind of born in the wrong generation. Her dialogue delivery is pretty flat in a lot of the stuff she's in, but if you have her covered in blood, screaming, dragging herself through hell, fighting for her life, and you start to imagine what sort of intense, visceral body acting she could have done in the 1970s and 80s. Like, imagine her covered in blood in the pickup truck of as Leatherface tries to chase her at the end of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But then they say, unfortunately, she probably would have been cast as a stereotypical airhead bimbo who would have been killed having sex.
She would have been.
But imagine if she had...
Oh, man, put her in Scream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the twist is that she's not the airhead bimbo.
She's not the airhead bimbo.
But she's doing that screaming at the end of that movie.
She is a true Scream queen.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that last scene was a 10. But the rest of the movie wasn't.
I find like, speaking of the bimbofication of like blondes with bigger chesticles, Sydney Sweeney is really good at making herself look like such a normal person.
Yeah.
Even though she's like a bombshell. Like, and I know that everyone like, there's dynamics, there's wigs, blah, 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 blah. But I don't know. When she's in movies like this, I'm like, wow, her and I are the same. We're from the same tree. And then I see her on TV and I'm like, no, never mind. So anyway, what's your rating, Patrick Smith?
My final rating for this movie. Okay.
Drum roll.
Immaculate had a lot of loose ends. It tried to do a lot of things and didn't really do anything well because of that. It didn't seem to know what it wanted to do. It started as a more traditional horror. It went to something a little bit unexpected, but that unexpected didn't play out very well either. Really, the only thing that I thought was really exceptional with this movie was that final scene of her just screaming for long, sitting
She was giving birth.
Yeah, it was great.
We need to say what it was. This is just a shout out to everyone who's ever given birth.
Sure. My final rating for this movie, though, like that scene was great. The rest of it was just very meh. I'm going to give it a 4.5.
That is so much higher than I was expecting you to give
it.
Okay, so the rean I always ask Patrick first is because I don't decide until like right before I say it. Like this is the moment that I decide.
Okay.
That moment with her in the blue.
Yeah.
That's like a whole point for me.
Okay. Wow.
So I'm at a 1. It's not a 1. It's less, no. I liked the songs. I liked the songs. I will say like it wasn't done well. But I understand some people's reaction to it, like a good reaction. And I'm just thinking about the types of horror movies that I like. In a religious context, I don't think it was done super great. It was terrifying to me, though, with like the pregnancy and like the manipulation of the female and the control of the female. That theme goes far for me because I am one. I don't think it was executed great. I've seen worse. And for that reason, I'm giving it a 3.5.
All right. So final rating between the two of us is a 4.
Yeah.
There you have it. It's just not that great of a movie.
No.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, let's call it there. That's it. I think we said everything we need to say.
We have to say bye.
Yeah.
All right.
We're going to go on a ramble and you were going to say something you've already said. They've heard it. They know.
All right, everyone. Thank you for watching and or listening. We are available everywhere you get your podcasts. We also have an Instagram account, which is linked below. And go to your local library and get a library card.